So you lie to yourself to be happy. There's nothing wrong with that. We all do it. Who cares if there's a few little details you'd rather not remember?
What the fuck are you talking about?
In this video, I am going to take a closer look at Leonard, Lenny, Shelby from the film Memento and the ways that confirmation bias seems to play a predominant role in his functioning as a character. Although the movie itself tends to focus on the topic of classical conditioning and Lenny's psychology, I believe confirmation bias may ultimately hold equal weight for Lenny's decision-making and behaviors. Confirmation bias is a psychological construct which indicates that people tend to favor, look for, or understand information in a way that confirms their already held beliefs and values. Not only does this operate in the favoring of certain information, but also in that people tend to disregard or look past information that does not fit into their already held mental conceptions. A good example of confirmation bias takes place within news outlets, in that people tend to believe the news which sides with their ideologies while dismissing those outlets that oppose them. Confirmation bias can be extremely dangerous since it can lead people down incorrect paths or beliefs which can damage our ties to objective reality. It can make it difficult for people to be challenged or to reason with these objective forms of reality, because they may be prone to dismissing certain ideas and accepting others solely based on what they already know and want to know. With this information in mind, let's get into the analysis. At the 6-minute mark of the movie, Lenny is about to kill Teddy after looking at the back of the photo, which states, "He is the one, kill him." Lenny knocks Teddy over the head and points a gun at him when Teddy offers to take Lenny down to the basement to find out who he really is. He wants to show Lenny that he has already killed someone else and that he does in fact have the wrong guy. We see on Lenny's face that he considers this option, but there also seems to be some distrust on his face, as if what is down there will prove to be against his currently held beliefs. As Lenny has already confirmed that Teddy is the one, what would be the reason to go against this evidence? Even if Lenny has a thought in the back of his head that he is making the wrong choice, the possibility of revealing that evidence would be devastating to his notion of reality. Within that few seconds, Teddy knows he has no chance and tries to escape, but is unsuccessful. This bias can lead us to make poor decisions because it distorts the reality from which we draw evidence. Under experimental conditions, decision makers have a tendency to actively seek information and assign greater value to evidence confirming their existing beliefs rather than entertaining new ones. This can be considered a form of bias in evidence collection. Conclusions we draw from biased evidence are more likely to be false than those that consider evidence from a more objective standpoint. This is because they are farther from reality. At the 10-minute mark of the film, we see Lenny in the black and white footage speaking on the phone, and he says,
You really need a system if you're gonna make it work. You kind of learn to trust your own handwriting. That becomes an important part of your life. You write yourself notes, and where you put your notes, that also becomes really important.
He also mentions how other people will try to write information that will lead you astray. He has come to believe that writing on your body may be the best option available. Lenny has found a way to bypass the uncertainty that might come from involving objective evidence in his plans. Instead of taking the chance that someone will slip information to him that doesn't align with his already held beliefs, he ensures that this loop stays closed by only trusting his own handwriting and using body tattoos as the primary form of evidence in his pursuits. At the 14-minute mark of the film, we see most of Lenny's tattoos, including all the facts he needs to remember. As we scan his body, we notice that although many of the facts are present, some of the tattoos are more concerned with maintaining his system. A few of the tattoos say, "Memory is treachery, consider the source, and don't trust your weakness." He then reads the information in the packet, which displays the car license number for John G. The information not only fits with what he already has in his file, but it also fits with his tattoos on his body. Because the information doesn't violate these parameters, meaning it makes sense within his system, he goes along with it and never questions its validity. There is no reason to deliberate as his bias has been confirmed. He proceeds to write on Teddy's picture, "He is the one, kill him." At the 24-minute mark of the film, Lenny is eating lunch with Teddy, and he says,
Look, memory can change the shape of a room, it can change the color of a car. And memories can be distorted. They're just an interpretation, they're not a record. And they're irrelevant if you have the facts.
Lenny can't rely on memory any longer, so he needs to find a way to interpret and process information in a short amount of time, as we see over and over in the movie. He often forgets information easily, especially when under stress, and so he needs ways to continue creating an effective narrative. Confirmation bias seems to be the perfect solution, as it can be explained as a shortcut itself, a way for humans to explain things without much psychological difficulty. These shortcuts are called heuristics. There is some debate surrounding whether or not confirmation bias can be formally categorized as a heuristic, but one thing is certain. It is a cognitive strategy that we use to look for evidence that best supports our hypothesis, and the most readily available hypotheses are the one that we already have. It makes sense that we do this. People need to make sense of information quickly, and forming new explanations or beliefs takes time. We have adapted to take the path of least resistance, often out of necessity. At the 38-minute mark of the film, Lenny has just slept with Natalie and gets out of bed because he can't sleep. He sees a picture of her and Jimmy and supposes that he has left her. He proceeds to write that she has lost someone and will help you out of pity. In Lenny's eyes, this is someone who he has become close to, evidenced by him sleeping with her and staying over at her house. They have formed some type of bond and intimacy. Due to this connection, it would not make sense for him to write something negative about her on her photo. To do so would be akin to writing something negative about himself. It's important for Lenny to keep a positive self-perception, as looking at himself negatively in any way would disrupt his already held beliefs. He must maintain the illusion that he is a good guy, someone who makes positive choices. Another reason why we sometimes show confirmation bias is that it protects our self-esteem. No one likes feeling bad about themselves, and realizing that a belief we valued is false can have this effect. Deeply held views often form our identities, and so disproving them can sometimes be deeply painful. Other times, it can suggest that we lack intelligence. As a result, we often look for information that supports rather than disproves our existing beliefs. At the hour and 5-minute mark of the film, Teddy is trying to get Lenny to leave town again, offering to have him go to a local motel. He provides him with information regarding Natalie and how she is not looking out for Lenny's best interest. The problem is, Teddy wants Lenny out of town, but that conflicts with Lenny's underlying motivations for revenge and seeking out the killer. Since leaving town would oppose everything he is doing, he writes the note about Natalie in a sloppy handwriting, a handwriting which he has conditioned himself to question at a later time. Even though Lenny disregards the information provided about Natalie, he does decide to take the information about the motel. The motel fits into his scheme and plans of staying in town and seeking out the killer, while the information about Natalie does not. His bias is guiding his decisions. At the 1 hour 31 mark of the film, Teddy is desperate to get Lenny out of town, following the murder of Jimmy. Teddy actually tells the complete truth about everything that is going on, including the fact that he is a snitch. The whole time Teddy is speaking, we see how Lenny is skeptical and seemingly unwilling to consider any of the information being produced. Before even looking at the photo, which says Teddy is a liar, Lenny is already resistant. In addition, he just received a tattoo which operates as furthering his prior beliefs and motivations. To take Teddy's advice would be to accept contradictory information, something that would produce a form of cognitive dissonance, a state of anxiety that arises when we hold contradictory or inconsistent beliefs or thoughts. In order to avoid this dissonance, he must resort back to the confirmation bias that has been working so well for him. At the individual level, the bias affects our decision-making. Our decisions cannot be fully informed if we are only focusing on evidence that confirms our assumptions. It can cause us to overlook pivotal information both in our careers and in everyday life. A poorly informed decision is more likely to produce suboptimal results because it has not taken stock of the environment in which it is made. Moreover, someone who sustains this sort of thinking may also accordingly be labeled close-minded. It is good to approach situations and the decisions they call for with an open mind that is aware of confirmation bias. At the 1 hour, 47-minute mark of the film, Lenny goes to his car after killing Jimmy. In addition, Teddy is told the whole truth about Lenny and his past, including the relevant information about Sammy Jankus. Lenny knows deep down that this all goes against his underlying motives, his internal beliefs, and that by taking this information in or remembering it, he would have nothing to do, no goal to work towards, no drive left in his life. To avoid that pit of despair and the existential crisis that would ensue, he destroys the photo of Jimmy and writes on the back that he should not trust Teddy's lies. He then writes the information for his next tattoo, the license plate for Teddy's car. In the voiceover, he admits to his need to forget about certain information while favoring what he wants. Here we see how confirmation bias not only operates on the level of confirming already held beliefs, but also operates on the level of dismissing a great deal of contradictory evidence. They call this confirmatory thought, which is said to involve a one-sided attempt to rationalize a particular point of view. This is juxtaposed with exploratory thought, which entails even-handed consideration of alternative points of view. At the 1 hour, 49-minute mark of the film, in the last scene, Lenny goes into a monologue about needing to believe that the world is still there if he closes his eyes, that there is a world outside of his own mind. What he means is that he needs to convince himself that he is looking at things objectively and that he is not entirely living with his subjective point of view. He's trying to tell himself that he still views things the ways that others do. On the contrary, he is living a completely subjective life, one that has very little objective reference points. The world, in fact, does not exist outside of his own mind. Through the use of conditioning and confirmation bias, he has constructed his own version of reality, a narrative that serves his own selfish purposes. This concludes this video on the psychology of Memento. Please watch my other videos regarding other TV and film characters if you enjoyed this one. Thank you for watching.